RAINLIGHT, Part 13. The hesitation stretched. Thin, trembling, dangerous. The river churned below, black water swallowing the lamplight. The footsteps above grew louder, closing in. She looked at him, really looked, and saw the truth in the tightness of his jaw, the way his shoulders tensed, the flicker of something like regret in his eyes. "Tell me," she said again, softer this time. "Before they get here." He swallowed hard. The man with the gun stepped closer, boots clanging against the metal. "He won't. He never does." "Stay out of this," he snapped. But the gunman didn't lower the weapon. "She deserves the truth." The wind whipped between them, cold and sharp. Finally, he spoke. "I didn't find your name in that notebook," he said. "I put it there." The world seemed to tilt. She felt the metal railing at her back, the cold biting through her coat. "You... what?" He stepped toward her, hands raised, not in surrender, but in desperation. "I had to. It was the only way to keep you safe." The gunman barked a humorless laugh. "Safe? You painted a target on her." He ignored him. His eyes stayed on her, pleading, raw, unguarded in a way she hadn't seen in years. "They were already watching you," he said. "Long before I knew. Long before I left. I thought if I put your name in the book, if I made it look like you were connected, they'd keep their distance. They don't touch people they think are part of the network." Her pulse hammered. "You used me." "I protected you." "You lied to me." "I saved you." The gunman stepped closer, gun raised. He saved himself. "Shut up," he growled. But the gunman didn't. "Tell her why you really left." He closed his eyes, just for a moment, and she saw the truth in the way his breath caught. "I left," he said quietly, "because they told me if I didn't disappear, they'd come for you." The wind stilled. The river roared. Her heart twisted, not with forgiveness, not with anger, but with the terrible, aching knowledge that the truth was never simple. "You should have told me," she whispered. "I couldn't," he said. "If you knew, you'd try to help. And if you tried to help, they'd kill you." The gunman's voice cut through the moment. "And now they'll kill both of you." Above them, the footsteps reached the catwalk. Shadows spilled down the stairs. Multiple figures, moving fast. He grabbed her hand again. "We have to go." The gunman stepped in front of them, blocking the path. "No, running won't save you anymore." "Move," he said, voice low, dangerous. The gunman shook his head. "You don't understand. They don't want the notebook. They don't want you." He looked at her. "They want her." The world froze. Her breath caught. And in that suspended second, the moment before the shadows reached them, she realized the truth wasn't just cracking open. It was exploding. RAINLIGHT, Part 14. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The river snarled below the catwalk, black water slamming against the pylons. The wind tore through the metal rails, carrying the cold sting of rain and something sharper. Fear, maybe, or inevitability. "They want me," she said, her voice barely audible over the storm. The gunman nodded once. "They always did." He stepped closer, gun steady, eyes locked on hers. "You were never a bystander. You were the point." The man beside her, the one she'd followed, trusted, almost forgiven, pulled her behind him, shielding her with his body. "Don't listen to him," he said. "He's twisting it." But the gunman didn't flinch. "Tell her the truth. Tell her why you really came back." The footsteps above grew louder. More shadows spilling onto the stairs. More boots hitting metal. They were seconds away. She looked at him. The man she'd once loved. The man who'd dragged her into the night. "Tell me," she said. "Now." His jaw clenched. Rain streaked down his face, catching in the hollows beneath his eyes. He looked torn open, not by fear, but by the weight of something he'd carried too long. I came back, he said, voice raw, because they found out what you are. The world seemed to tilt. What I am, he swallowed. You're not just a name in that notebook. You're the reason it exists. The gunman's voice cut through the storm. She doesn't know. She never knew. Know what? She demanded. The shadows reached the bottom of the stairs. Dark figures, moving fast, weapons drawn. He grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. You were part of this long before I met you, before either of us understood what was happening. Her pulse hammered. That's impossible. No, he said, it's not. The gunman raised his weapon. Move away from her. He didn't. The shadows closed in. The river roared. And then everything happened at once. A shot cracked through the air, sharp and violent. Sparks exploded from the railing beside her. He pulled her down, shielding her with his body as bullets tore through the catwalk. The gunman fired back, shouting something she couldn't hear over the chaos. Metal screamed. Boots thundered. The storm swallowed every sound. He grabbed her hand, not gently, not carefully, but with the urgency of someone who knew this was the last chance they'd get. This way, he shouted. They ran, not up the stairs, not toward the shadows, but toward the edge of the catwalk where the railing was weakest. No, she gasped. We can't. We don't have a choice. The gunman saw what he intended. Don't you dare! But it was too late. He wrapped an arm around her, bracing her against his chest. Hold on, he whispered, and then he drove them both through the railing. The metal snapped. The world dropped. The river rose up like a mouth. Cold, black, endless. They hit the water hard, the impact ripping the breath from her lungs, the darkness swallowing them whole. Above, the gunfire faded, the shouts blurred. The river closed over their heads. And the night, the whole vast, merciless night, took them. RAINLIGHT, Part 15. The river swallowed them whole. Cold slammed into her like a fist, knocking the breath from her lungs. The world dissolved into black water and bubbles, the current dragging her down, twisting her in its grip. She couldn't tell which way was up. Her chest burned. Her limbs felt heavy, slow, useless. A hand closed around her wrist. His. Even underwater, she felt the urgency in his grip. Not gentle, not reassuring, but fierce, desperate. He pulled her toward him, his other arm cutting through the water with practiced strength. The river fought back, dragging them sideways, slamming them against something hard, a piling maybe, or a submerged beam. Pain flared along her ribs. She kicked, searching for the surface, for air, for anything that wasn't this crushing dark. Then, light. A faint shimmer above them, wavering like a promise. He pushed her upward, his grip unbreakable. Her head broke the surface with a gasp that tore her throat raw. Rain hit her face in cold needles. The river heaved beneath her, waves slapping against her chin. She coughed, choking on water and air and fear. He surfaced beside her, breath ragged. Stay with me, he said, voice hoarse. She clung to him, the current dragging them toward the shadow of the docks. Above, shouts echoed across the catwalk, distorted by distance, by wind, by the river's roar. Flashlights swept the water, beams slicing through the mist. They're looking for us, she whispered. They won't find us, he said. Not if we move. He hooked an arm around her waist and kicked hard, angling them toward the underside of the pier. The wooden beams loomed above them, slick with algae, barnacles clinging like teeth. The space beneath was narrow, dark, claustrophobic, but sheltered. He pulled her into the shadows. The river calmed slightly here, the pilings breaking the worst of the current. She clung to the beam, chest heaving, hair plastered to her face. Above them, boots pounded across the catwalk. They jumped, a voice shouted. Fan out along the bank. Another voice, colder, more controlled, answered, "They won't get far." She shivered. He moved closer, his breath warm against her ear despite the cold. "We have a few minutes before they sweep this side." She turned to him, water dripping from her lashes. "Tell me the rest." He hesitated, even now, even with danger pressing in from every direction. "Please," she said, "no more half-truths." He closed his eyes, rain running down his face like tears. "When I left," he said quietly, "I thought disappearing would keep you safe. But they didn't stop watching you. They watched more. Why? Because of what you know." She shook her head. "I don't know anything." "You do," he said. "You just don't remember." The river seemed to still. "What does that mean?" He looked at her, really looked, and she saw it then. The fear, the guilt, the terrible, fragile hope that she might believe him. "You were involved before either of us understood what this was," he said. "Before the notebook, before the network, before me." Her pulse hammered. "Involved how?" He swallowed hard. "You're not just a name in that book, Grace. You're the reason they wrote it." The river groaned beneath them. The footsteps above faded. The night held its breath, and she realized the truth wasn't just surfacing. It was rising like something that had been waiting in the dark for years. Rainlight, Part 16. The river pressed against the pilings, a deep, rhythmic pulse that felt almost like breathing. She clung to the beam, water dripping from her hair, her coat heavy with the weight of the night. He stayed close, too close, as if afraid she might slip away into the current or into the truth he'd been avoiding. "You're not making sense," she said, her voice low, steady, sharper than the cold. "Start from the beginning." He hesitated and she felt it, the way his breath caught, the way his fingers tightened on the beam. He wasn't afraid of the men hunting them. He was afraid of this. "You were involved before you knew," he said. "Before I knew. Before any of us understood what the network really was." She shook her head. "I don't remember anything like that." "That's the point," he said. "You're not supposed to." The river groaned beneath them, the water slapping against the wood like a warning. "What does that mean?" He looked at her, rain streaking down his face, eyes dark with something like grief. "You were part of the first list," he said. "The original one, before the notebook, before the surveillance, before the disappearances." Her pulse stuttered. "A list of what?" "People who knew something," he said, "or saw something, or were connected to someone who did. The network didn't start with criminals or politicians or informants. It started with witnesses." She felt the cold seep deeper into her bones. "Witnesses to what?" He swallowed hard. "A deal, a death, a night that was supposed to be buried." She stared at him, the river roaring in her ears. "You think I saw something?" "I know you did." Her breath caught. "Then why don't I remember?" He closed his eyes, just for a moment, and she saw the truth in the way his shoulders sagged. "Because they erased it." The world seemed to tilt. "Erased my memory?" "Not all of it," he said. "Just enough. Just the parts that mattered. Just the parts that tied you to them." She felt the beam tremble beneath her grip. "That's impossible." "It's not," he said quietly. "Not for them." The footsteps above had faded. The searchers had moved farther down the docks. But the danger hadn't lessened. It had simply changed shape. She forced her voice to stay steady. "If they erased my memory, why keep watching me?" "Because you were the only one they couldn't control," he said. "The only one who slipped through the cracks. The only one who survived." The river stilled, just for a heartbeat, as if listening. She felt her breath catch. "Survived what?" He looked at her, and the answer was already in his eyes. "The night everything started," he said. "The night they tried to kill you. The cold hit her like a second impact, not from the river, but from the truth rising beneath it. She opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, a voice echoed from the darkness above the pier. There they are! Flashlights flared, boots thundered, and the past, the one she didn't remember, the one she'd been running from without knowing, finally caught up. Rainlight. Part 17. Flashlights sliced through the darkness above the pier, beams jittering across the water like frantic searchlights. Voices barked orders, boots hammered the planks, and the river, once a hiding place, now felt like a trap tightening around them. He pressed closer to her beneath the pier, breath ragged, water dripping from his hair. We have to move, he whispered. But she didn't move. Not yet, not until she understood. You said they tried to kill me, she murmured, voice trembling but steady. When? His jaw tightened. Years ago. I would remember something like that. You would, he said, if they hadn't taken it from you. The river groaned, the pilings shuddering under the weight of footsteps above. Tell me what happened, she said. He hesitated, and that hesitation was its own confession. You were in the wrong place, he said. You saw something you weren't meant to see. A meeting, a deal, a death. I don't know which part they cared about most, but they marked you. Marked me how? Your name went on the first list, the list of people who needed to disappear. Her breath caught. And you, she whispered, where were you in all this? His eyes flicked away, just for a moment, but long enough. I was there, he said. I saw you. I saw what they did. I tried to get you out. She stared at him, the river roaring in her ears. Did you save me? She asked. He swallowed. I tried. That's not an answer. He closed his eyes, rain streaking down his face. I got you out of the building. I got you to the alley. But they caught up. They hit you, hard. You went down. I thought... He stopped, breath shaking. I thought you were dead. The world seemed to tilt. And then, she whispered, then the van came. Not theirs. Someone else's. They took you. I followed, but I lost them. When you resurfaced months later, you didn't remember anything. Not the night, not the list, not me. Her pulse hammered. That's why you left. He nodded. If they knew you were alive, they'd come for you again. I thought disappearing would keep you safe. And now? He looked at her. Really looked. And she saw the truth in his eyes. Now they know, he said, and they won't stop. Above them, a voice shouted, check under the pier. Flashlights swung toward the water. He grabbed her hand. We have to go. Now. But before they could move, a second voice, calm, cold, unmistakably familiar, cut through the chaos. Don't bother, it said. She'll come to us. Her blood ran cold. She knew that voice, not from memory, but from somewhere deeper, older, buried beneath the years they'd stolen from her. She looked up through the slats of the pier. A figure stood above them, silhouetted by the searchlights. Not him, not the gunman, someone else. Someone she had once trusted, someone she had once feared. And as the river surged around her, the truth hit her like a second impact. She hadn't just been a witness. She had been part of the story from the beginning. Rainlight, Part 18. The flashlights above the pier converged, beams slicing through the rain. The figure stood at the center of them, unmoving, as if the storm itself parted around them. The others, the men with guns, the ones who chased them across the warehouse district, held back, forming a loose semicircle, not leading, waiting, for them. She felt her breath catch in her throat. The voice, calm, cold, unmistakably familiar, drifted down through the slats. I told you she'd come. He stiffened beside her, every muscle going taut. Don't look, he whispered. But she did. She tilted her head just enough to see through the gaps in the boards above. Rain blurred the edges, but not enough to hide the truth. The figure stepped forward. A woman, tall, dark coat, hair pulled back in a severe knot, eyes sharp enough to cut through the storm. Her heart lurched. She knew that face, not from memory, not from anything she could consciously reach, but from somewhere deeper, older, buried beneath the years they'd stolen from her. A recognition that hit like a blow to the ribs. The woman looked down, meeting her gaze through the slats. "Hello, Grace." Her name sounded wrong in that voice. Too smooth, too practiced, too intimate. He grabbed her arm. "Don't listen to her." But the woman's smile was small, knowing, almost tender. "You always were stubborn," she said, "even before the night you forgot." The river surged beneath them, cold and merciless. Grace's fingers tightened on the beam. "Who are you?" The woman tilted her head, rain dripping from her lashes. "You don't remember me." It wasn't a question. Grace swallowed. "Should I?" The woman's smile widened. Not cruel, but sad. "You did. Once." He pulled Grace closer, shielding her with his body. "She's lying. She's manipulating you." But the woman didn't look at him. She only looked at Grace. "You were with me that night," the woman said softly, "before the deal went wrong, before the gunfire, before they decided you were a liability." Grace's pulse hammered. You don't remember," the woman finished. "I know. They took that from you. They took everything." The men around her shifted, uneasy. The woman stepped closer to the edge of the pier, her boots inches from the slats above Grace's head. "But I didn't forget you," she said. "I never did." He hissed under his breath. "Grace, we need to move." But she couldn't. Not yet. Not when the woman above her spoke with a certainty that made the river feel suddenly too small, too dark, too full of ghosts. "What do you want from me?" Grace whispered. The woman crouched, bringing her face level with the slats. Rain dripped from her coat, her hair, her fingers. "I want you to remember," she said. A chill ran through Grace, deeper than the river, deeper than the night. "Remember what?" The woman's eyes softened. "Who you were," she said, "and what you did." The river surged. The men above shifted. He pulled Grace back into the shadows, and the woman's final words drifted down like a blade. "You weren't a witness, Grace. You were one of us."